I'm doing a monthly wrap-up. How crazy. I haven't done one of these in ages, but October was a great reading month. I'm in such a reading mood right now, and I am loving it. I have 12 books to talk about, so jumping right in, the first book I finished was Empire of Gold by S.A. Chakraborty. Obviously, I loved it. Oh my god, this is the finale to the Daevabad trilogy, which I started in the summer and absolutely fell in love with. It's one of my new favorite series, but oh my god, was this book harrowing. I was in pain for ages. After I finished the book, I was literally sitting there for an hour just thinking. I did nothing. I sat on my couch and I just stared and I was thinking about this book. I was in physical pain over these tortured souls and everything hurt and my heart was just bleeding the whole time. I was sobbing so hard. I had so many emotions while reading this book. It was just completely mind-blowing. Before I go any further, I should say what the trilogy is about. The first one follows Nari, who is a con artist living in Cairo, when she accidentally summons a Jinn warrior. That warrior ends up taking her to the city of Daevabad, which is full of the magical Jinn, and everything kind of goes crazy. It's full of magic and atmosphere and political intrigue. The characters are so lovable and so flawed, and oh my god, you thought that things weren't going to get any worse, and then they do, and I felt so bad for all of these freaking characters. Oh my god. I was completely engaged throughout reading this book, and my heart was bleeding. And after that full hour of me sitting there going, what the heck just happened? I realized that I did have a few more issues than I originally thought with the book. I still absolutely loved it. I want to make that clear. This is one of my new favorite series ever. It's fantastic, and I do really love this book. However, I think that it kind of veered off from where the original trilogy seemed to be going. I felt like a lot of the really complicated social issues that were in the first couple books, that were the main focus of the first couple books, were kind of pushed to the side in order to just get rid of the big bad that appeared. So it became much more simplistic and much more good versus evil rather than the nuanced conversation that the first two books provided. I understand why it happened. It's very hard to solve these issues that are still plaguing us in the real world. I cannot expect an author to do that either, so it's understandable. It's just felt like a shift in tone. There were also a few minor things that I had an issue with, but I can't really get into them because of spoilers. I will just say that as much as I love those two characters, I think they're better platonic. I've mentioned before, but all of the romance bits aren't my favorite part of the story, so I just kind of brush them to the side and pay attention to everything else. But I had a very interesting reading experience with this because I was just dying and so in love with it as I was reading it, and then I sat down and thought about it more and started picking holes into it. So I still really love the book. I really love this series. It's just not quite what it set up to be, but at the same time it's really hard to do exactly what it set out to do, so I don't know. I still really love the series. It's one of my favorites. I definitely want to buy the other two books in the series to have them physically to reread because they're just so good. I honestly couldn't see it ending any other way though, so it's definitely a great conclusion and I would highly recommend the series as a whole. Please read it. It's so good. If you've read the book, I would love to talk spoilers with you. I was talking with Angela from Literature Science Alliance and also my cousin who both really love the book and really love this trilogy, and it was a lot of fun. There's so much that happened, so much to unpack and discuss that it makes for a really great conversation. And so if you've read it, please talk to me about it. I need to talk to more people about it. I read a middle grade, which was The Jumbies by Tracey Baptiste, and this was adorable. It's based in Caribbean folklore, and it's about a girl who lost her mother and she gets kind of targeted by these Jumbies, which are basically Caribbean folklore demons, and it's so much fun. It's such an adventure and so sweet. I loved learning about this new mythology that I knew nothing about. That's one of my favorite things, is learning new mythology from different cultures. So this was fantastic. The adventure story was well written. I couldn't really find a fault with it. The characters were maybe a little bit not as developed, but again, it's a middle grade. It's just a fun, sweet adventure story, and I would definitely continue in the series. I'm really interested in where it's going to go from there, and I just love learning more about this folklore. I think it's really great for both middle grade and adult readers. I really enjoyed my time with it, and I think kids would really love it too. Continuing in the Earthsea cycle, I read Tehanu, which is the 4th book, and it's so different from the first 3 books. This one follows Tehanu in her middle age and just trying to figure out where she fits in the world, and I really, really loved it. It's a very feminist fantasy. It's very slow moving, not that much happens, and there's no big magic like there were in the first 3 books. It focuses much more on women's power and what they can do. It also ties up so many loose ends from the previous books. It makes the timeline kind of wonky, but still understandable. And I know a lot of people really don't like this book just because it's such a deviation from the first 3 books. But I really enjoyed it. It's more of an introspective book on women's power in this world where all of the men are the great mages, and any woman who has power is a bad witch, is wicked as women's magic. It's very thought-provoking and empowering, and I'm starting to see why Ursula K. Le Guin is touted as a feminist fantasy writer. It's so good. Now, I had this really odd set of books that had very similar titles, and I don't know how it happened. I had The Hidden Queen to The Hidden Witch, and then The Midwinter Witch, and then The Bone Witch. I don't know what happened there. I guess I was in a witchy hidden mood, but anyway, going in order, the first one I read was The Hidden Witch by Alma Alexander. This is a reread for me. I read this probably in 5th grade based on a post-it note I found that had writing that looked about my 5th grade level. Did I say Hidden Queen or Hidden Witch? I don't even know at this point. This is The Hidden Queen. This is about a 9-year-old girl who is actually the queen of the land, but she's forced into exile when her illegitimate brother forces himself onto the throne. Honestly, I picked this up right now because it has a desert on the cover, and I was just getting off of the Daevabad trilogy, which has a bunch of deserts in it, and I was kind of in the mood for more of that. The desert isn't a big thing in here. It's the last third of the book, so that was weird and unexpected. It definitely didn't give me the Daevabad vibes I was looking for, but it definitely gave me Wheel of Time vibes. I can see so much influence from Wheel of Time now that I've started reading that series in here. In this world, there is a magic power called the Sight, and mainly women have access to it. There are very few men. They all go to this big white tower to be trained in the Sight and trained to find the void in order to access and open themselves to the Sight. If you've read Wheel of Time, you can see all of the similarities here. Even the hierarchy in that white tower is delineated by robe color. So there's a lot of things in here that are Wheel of Time inspired, and it was really interesting getting to draw those conclusions between the two because I am, again, new to Wheel of Time. This is the first time I'm starting to see its influence in other fantasy. But the pacing in this book is really, really weird. It would speed up and slow down really randomly. There were time skips in places where it didn't feel like there needed to be time skips, and then we would slow down in places where it felt like we should have used a time skip. So it was just really off-putting. And it honestly took me a really long time to read, probably because of that weird pace where it was starting and stopping and not really getting into a comfortable rhythm. But I continued reading it because I know I've read it before, so it's possible for me to get through this, and I'm just curious to see what I read in the past. The plot and the characters are engaging enough to make me continue. I am currently reading the 2nd book right now, so it's just a duology. It's going to be done soon, and I don't know where it's going to go. I don't know. I am going to continue the series. I don't have very strong opinions of it. I don't think I loved it either when I was reading this for the first time, and I still don't love it now. I don't know if I would even recommend it. Yeah, I don't really know what about this sets it apart from any other fantasy. If you're looking for a really classic fantasy just following a young girl, then sure. Otherwise, I don't think there's anything super special about it, and I am just continuing it because I know I've read it before, so I want to see what I read. Like I mentioned, I next have The Hidden Witch and The Midwinter Witch. These are the next 2 books in the Witch Boy series, which is a graphic novel series about a boy who is from this family where all of the men are shapeshifters and all of the women are witches, but he is much more drawn to witchcraft than to shapeshifting. These books just continue their story, continue with these characters. The 2nd book was Not as good as the first, in my opinion. I thought that the resolution was a bit fast, but they're just so adorable. There are so many important conversations in these books, and I love the color palette. It's very fall and like yellows and reds, like it's so pretty. I love it so much, and these characters are adorable. So it was a cute time. I really enjoyed it. The third one, the Midwinter Witch, I actually enjoyed more than the second book. The first book is still my favorite, but this one I enjoyed much more. I think this one did a better job with pacing and with setting up the plot, where the other one was much faster and the resolution kind of felt like it came out of nowhere. This one felt much more developed, and I really enjoyed it. Again, there's a lot of really important topics discussed in this, with family and discovering who you are. They're super adorable. I love these characters. Everything about them is cute and fun, and I would highly recommend them. They're full of witchy vibes and perfect for the fall time. I really, really enjoyed them. I also read The Bone Witch by Chupeco, and this is about a girl who is a necromancer. She can raise the dead. She raises her brother by accident, and that calls attention to her in this land where necromancers or bone witches are not really respected. I read this in my 24-hour reading vlog, which went up last week, so you can see my thoughts there. I am still confused about this. I don't know how I feel about it. I was never fully drawn into the story, and I'm not quite sure why. Honestly, I was kind of bored throughout it. There's not much happening until the very end, and as much as I love character-focused books, I didn't love these characters. They felt really weird to me. The brother in particular felt very odd. I don't understand his motivations really, other than just caring for his sister, but like he felt like he had no agency and no other desires outside of that, which I don't really buy. I wasn't drawn to the main character either. There's a split timeline where you're seeing her in the future and what happened to her, and then going back and discovering how she got there, and it was kind of interesting. I wanted to know sort of why she's acting the way she is in the present day timeline, but at the same time it's just a little bit overdramatic and cheesy for me, I think. I was just having a hard time believing any of these characters, so it was a little bit unsatisfying. I finished the book. I honestly should have DNF'd it. I felt like DNFing it pretty early on, and I just didn't, and I'm not sure why, but I definitely should have. So that at least tells me that when I have a feeling I should DNF a book, I am usually pretty right. So I have more confidence now whenever I DNF things, but I definitely should have DNF'd this one. I didn't care for it. It was just really unsatisfying, and it was such a weird feeling to have after finishing a book where I felt like I didn't really read anything. So that was an odd experience, and I definitely won't be continuing in the series. I will try more of Chupeco's work because there are a few more that I'm interested in, and hopefully they'll go better than this one. Moving away from fantasy, I did read a few other genres this month. So the first one is romance with The Luckiest Lady in London by Sherry Thomas. This is a historical romance about a lady who is looking for a husband and a man who was planning to be a bachelor into his old age, and obviously it's a romance, so that doesn't happen. This was a pretty good book overall. There are parts that I didn't like and parts that I did. I think the writing was a bit repetitive and you couldn't really see the character development on page, but I did like the character interactions. Their sort of antagonistic dynamic was really fun. I really like how open the women was to sex, when obviously in this time, or even now, it's not really looked kindly upon when women are openly sexual. So I really enjoyed that part of it, and I enjoyed some of the elements relating to that as well. And though their attraction to each other didn't really make much sense, it was still just fun to read. It was a good historical romance, and I enjoyed my time with it. I read some nonfiction with How to Be an Antiracist by Ibram X. Kendi. This very systematically goes through all of the different forms of racism there are, or a lot of them, if not all of them, and it was very informative. It does a really good job of breaking each category down and showing exactly how it affects Black people's lives. I learned a lot, and I really appreciate it for that, though I did have an issue with the writing style and the narration. I just didn't like it very much. It sounded kind of weird to me, but It's fine. I still learned a lot from this book and I would still recommend it. It's a really good resource. Because it was spooky season, I decided to read a little bit of horror, which is not something I ever do, but I really enjoyed Edgar Allan Poe when I was in school, so I picked up a few of his short stories. I listened to a couple of them on audio. It was called Tales of Terror, and it's basically just a collection of a few of Poe's short stories, and it was just a really easily digestible way to get through them. The only stories from Poe I was ever really familiar with were The Raven and The Telltale Heart, so getting to read more of his stories was definitely an interesting experience. They're very dark and gruesome, and they're so twisted and perfect for the spooky time, though there's really only one that actually scared me, and I'm normally someone who gets very scared, especially when it comes to paranormal things, which is why The Fall of the House of Usher was the one that just freaked me out. I can't stand anything with ghosts and haunted houses, and I hate it. I hate it so much. I can deal with insane murderers just fine, but as soon as you throw in something supernatural, I'm out of there. So that was fun. It definitely got me in the mood for Halloween, so I appreciate it. These are such well-written stories as well. He is a master of atmosphere and macabre, and it's perfect. I would definitely recommend it if you haven't read any Poe, especially if you haven't read any since school. They're really, really short, they're really easy to get through, and they're just perfect for that spooky time. Kind of in the same vein, I decided to pick up Northanger Abbey by Jane Austen. This is her satire of the Gothic novel, so I thought that that would be perfect because Gothic novels are perfect for spooky time, and if it's a satire, that means I'm not going to be too scared. And surprisingly, even though it's a satire and it's constantly making fun of the Gothic novel, there are parts of this that actually scared me. So I am just the ultimate wimp, and I just reaffirm that reading this book. But this honestly is not a scary book if you're someone who's just like mildly more brave than I am. It shouldn't be scary to you. It's actually really funny, and Jane Austen often inserts herself and breaks the fourth wall and just gives these really like scathing remarks in her narration. It's so great. There are definitely times when I wanted to smack Catherine because she's just being ridiculous and I was getting frustrated, but at the same time, it definitely works for the story. It's so overdramatic, and I think accomplishes exactly what Jane Austen set out to do, which is to make fun of the Gothic novel, and it was great. I really, really enjoyed it. I watched the movie version of it right after, and that definitely made me cringe a lot. I wouldn't recommend the movie, actually. Read the book, it's much better, and it makes much more sense why Catherine is like this, because you're in her narration, and you can see exactly what she's thinking as she does these stupid things. But I do think I picked the perfect time to read this in October with the spooky season because it just has the tiniest hint of spooky while not being too scary, and it was great. I really, really enjoyed it. And lastly, I read a contemporary that was Out of Sight, Out of Time by Ally Carter. This is the 5th book in the Gallagher Girl series, which was one of my favorite series from childhood. I love it so much. It's about a spy school for girls and a bunch of other stuff because there's 6 books in the series. This is the 5th one, and oh my god, this book had so many answers that I was dying for. This kept me on the edge of my seat the whole time, and that's so unexpected for me considering it's such an old YA novel that I would expect it to be full of more of the like cringy tropes, but it's not. It's so quick paced. It drew me right into the story. I finished it in one sitting. You can actually see it in my 24-hour reading vlog. I read this just really quickly and it was so good. The writing is still not perfect, I'm aware, but I just didn't even care because the story was so fascinating. There were some plot conveniences, but I don't care. It was so good. I don't know how much of this is my nostalgia talking, but I never did read this book before. I've never read the 5th and 6th books in the series, so technically I can't have nostalgia for this book, but I do have nostalgia for the series. Amnesia can be a pretty cheap trope to use, but I thought it was done really well. I enjoyed the mystery suspense element that it gave to this, and I thought it was so good. I really, really liked it, and I'm so excited to finish the series, finish the last book. Oh my god. I don't know what's gonna happen, and I love it. I really love this series. Okay, I'm gonna try and wrap this up because the freaking leaf blowers are back and they're annoying me. So those are all of the books that I read in October. If you have any thoughts on them, if you're going to read the David Bond trilogy, let me know. I'm super excited to see what you all think of it. I want to know if you're going to read the Gallagher Girl series. I would love that as well. I am kind of fearful that you wouldn't like it as much as I did because I read it as a kid, but at the same time, I really love it. Please let me know what you thought of any of these books, what you read in October, what was your favorite read. I had some really good ones this month. I was really happy with it, but otherwise I'm going to go now and I will see you later. Bye.